This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step.
Welcome back, folks, and buckle up. We're diving headfirst into a transcript that's a masterclass in political spin, half-truths, and outright fabrications. We've got claims about wars, foreign leaders pulling strings, and a media landscape that seems more interested in narrative than reality. This isn't just about what's being said. It's about what's being missed, what's being twisted, and what we, the American people, are being told to believe. I'm here to cut through the noise, cut out the nonsense, and give you the unvarnished truth. Let's expose the real agenda behind these headlines and see who's really getting played. Get ready for some straight talk. Let's roll the tape.
On the contrary, I would actually love to live in a country where we have a great president and I can help make the president look good. But we unfortunately don't live in that kind of country. We live in a country that is ruled by a leader that has his balls firmly grasped by a foreign leader. And so as a result, the US has been dragged into a war against Iran.
Whoa, hold on a second. His balls firmly grasped by a foreign leader? That's quite the visual, isn't it? But let's be real. This isn't just colorful language. It's a classic progressive talking point designed to delegitimize any action that doesn't fit their globalistic narrative. The idea that a US president is a puppet for any foreign nation, especially a close ally like Israel, is not just only insulting, but wildly inaccurate. The US has its own strategic interests, and sometimes those align with our allies, and sometimes they don't. To suggest that every move is dedicated by Tel Aviv or London or anyone else is to ignore the complex geopolitical landscape and the very real threats we face. It's a convenient way to dismiss policy you don't like without actually debating its merits. Let's focus on facts, folks, not conspiracy theories dressed up as political analysis.
That has quickly escalated into a regional war. Things have already gotten out of control. The US is low on missile interceptors, which is pretty disastrous considering the fact that the interceptors are far more expensive and difficult to make compared to the cheaper drones and missiles that Iran seems to have in abundance. So that's what we're dealing with right now. But of course, Pete Hegseth would like us to stop talking about this. He would like us to stop drawing attention to the fact that we've already lost, at a minimum, 6 members of our military, men and women in our armed services. And this is in Israel. Israel likes to hide the damage that they have sustained as a result of the war that they've been egging on. Tel Aviv has been battered. I don't know how high the death toll is in Israel because they prevent journalists on the ground from reporting the specific details of how much damage the Iranians have managed to do in Tel Aviv. But we're in the United States of America, and our soldiers deserve to have their names read, to have their memories brought up, considering the fact that they sacrificed in their minds for our country. In the end, they ended up losing their lives on behalf of a foreign country. So to be fair, there are 2 things Hegseth could be referring to in the statement that we showed you earlier. So he could be talking about the deaths of Americans. He could also be referring to that strike on a elementary school that killed 160 children, elementary age children. Both look bad for Trump. There's no question about that. And CNN's Caitlin Collins decided to press the White House press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, about this. And things got heated, to say the least. Take a look.
Given what Secretary Hegseth said this morning, is it the position of this administration that the press should not prominently cover the deaths of U.S. service members?
No, it's the position of this administration that the press in this room and the press across the country should accurately report on the success of Operation Epic Fury and the damage it is doing to the rogue Iranian regime that has threatened the lives of every single American in this room. If the Iranian regime had their choice, they would kill every single person in this room. And so we can all be very grateful that we have an administration and that we have men and women in our armed forces who are willing to sacrifice their own lives for the rest of us in this room and for every American across the country and for every troop that is based in the Middle East. That's what these...
Hegseth was complaining that it was front page news about these 6 service members who were killed.
That's not what the secretary said, Caitlin, and that's not what the secretary meant, and you know it. You know you're being disingenuous. You and your network know that you take every single thing this administration says and tries to use it to make the president look bad. That is an objectable fact.
I don't think covering troop deaths is trying to make
if you're trying to argue right now that CNN's overwhelming coverage is not negative of President Donald Trump, I think the American people would tend to agree.
Oh, the coverage is negative. The coverage is definitely negative. He's a bumbling idiot and dragged our military into a potentially devastating war that could require ground troops pretty soon.
Bumbling idiot? Really? Come on. This is the kind of rhetoric that completely cheapens any real discussion about foreign policy. It's easy to throw around insults, but it's much harder to acknowledge the strategic complexities of dealing with a hostile regime like Iran. This isn't about one man's belief or crusade. It's about decades of escalating tensions and a need to protect American interests and personnel. And this idea that he did it on behalf of a foreign country, again, people, with the puppet master narrative, it's a dog whistle, pure and simple, designed to undermine support for Israel and paint any defensive action in the Middle East as nefarious. Our military is there to protect us. And sometimes that means confronting threats that originate from hostile actors backed by Iran. Let's not pretend this is some crazy venture for another nation. It's about American security, first and foremost.
And he did it on behalf of a foreign country. Yeah, he's getting a lot of bad press right now for good reason. You want to know one of the other good reasons he's getting bad press? Because he reneged on his promises, namely this promise.
I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. No more wars, no more disruptions. We will have prosperity and we will have peace. Under Trump, we will have no more wars, no more disruptions, and we will have prosperity and peace for all. I am the candidate of peace. I am peace.
Just a side point, Ukraine's in a lot of trouble because we're not even able to provide interceptors for Persian Gulf allies of ours, because we're low on interceptors and we're using everything we have to protect Israel. So I don't know what's going to happen with Ukraine. And the opportunities to agree to a peace deal where Ukraine, yes, would have to give up some of their land, but at least they wouldn't have more of their land taken by Russia. They should have taken those deals, to be honest with you, because now Ukraine is an afterthought for the Trump administration entirely. Anyway, moving on. According to new polling from CNN and SSRS, many Americans do believe that Trump is an idiot. Okay, that's not what the poll asked, to be fair. Americans don't believe that Trump tried hard enough to avoid war. And I think that that's an accurate frame of mind. So 6 in 10 Americans disapprove of the direction or the decision to take military action against Iran. So this is just the latest poll. There have been similar polls that we've shared with you.
Okay, folks, I had to stop it when we start talking about those trusty poll numbers. Here's the thing about polls, especially when it comes to complex foreign policy. They often reflect public perception, folks, which is heavily influenced by the very media the speaker just criticized. If the news is consistently painting a picture of bumbling idiots dragging us into war, then naturally people will disapprove. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Furthermore, asking if Americans disapprove of military action against Iran without providing context on why that action was taken or what the alternatives were It's like asking if people disapprove of going to the dentist without mentioning the cavity. Of course, nobody wants war. Nobody, folks. But sometimes it's a necessary evil to deter greater threats. We need more than sound bites and skewed polls. We need a clear-eyed understanding of the stakes at hand. Period.
Most say that they lack trust in Trump to make the right decisions about U.S. use of force in Iran, with 60% saying they do not think he has a clear plan for handling the situation, and 62% saying he should get congressional approval for any further military action. The poll is just absolutely horrible for the Trump administration and for the Republicans as we get closer to the midterm elections. So, for instance, just over a quarter, 27%, feel that the US made enough of an effort at diplomacy with Iran before using military force, with 39% saying the US did not try hard enough at diplomacy first, and 33% say that they're unsure. By the way, these polls, as it pertains to foreign policy issues, tend to have a high percentage of Americans responding don't know or unsure. And that really is an indictment of our media, because foreign policy is something that, generally speaking, the media stays away from. And as a result, when these conflicts happen, unless you're, a bit of a news junkie or really care about foreign policy, you're not necessarily going to know exactly what's going on. And I think that's by design. Now, I do want to talk about the US service members who have been killed, because 4 out of 6 have been identified so far. By the way, this is just my speculation. I hope I am wrong about this, but I do have a gut feeling that, considering all of the damage the US has sustained at our embassies, at like that CIA center in Saudi Arabia, I think that the casualties on the American side likely are higher than we know, but we're going to have to wait for confirmation on that. For now, though, I want to show you the 4 service members who have been identified, who did lose their lives through strikes while they were in Kuwait. So, clockwise from the top left, you have Declan J. Cody, age 20, 20-year-old, 20-year-old kid. 20-year-old kid, guys, not even old enough to drink an alcoholic beverage, lost his life in Kuwait as he was in a triple wide trailer that Pete Hegseth lied and said was fortified. Nicole Amor, 39 years old. Noah Tietjens, 42 years old. And Cody Cork, 35 years old. What's even more devastating about the fact that these individuals lost their lives was that a few of them were actually about done with their military service. So Hegseth claimed that they were, again, in a fortified building. That wasn't true. The only thing that the building had to protect it was like a concrete wall that was erected specifically to prevent damage from possible suicide bombers, as if we're like in 2003 right now, but okay. So Tietjens and Amor were potentially going to basically retire from their military careers. This was supposed to be their last deployment. So Amor's 18-year-old son was getting ready to graduate, and she didn't want to miss any more of her 9-year-old daughter's childhood. And Tietjen was 3 months away from finishing his deployment in Kuwait. His brother told the New York Times he just wanted to get there and get it over with and get back. So with that in mind, I want to turn to Mark Levin, who has egged on this disastrous war and callously discusses the loss of American lives in this next video.
Unfortunately, every casualty is very sad, and it affects a family. And we don't like the fact that we lose any red-blooded Americans. But the battle against the Iranian regime, the purpose is to protect the American people, protect our armed forces, protect the homeland, help our allies, protect tens of thousands of people from being slaughtered, who've been slaughtered. And yes, retribution, to make it clear that you don't get to do this to us for half a century without any effective response. So, of course, if we lose heroes, and we lost 3, and there may be born, the president says likely so, because it's a massive military operation. It's a terrible thing. They gave their lives. They gave their lives for a great cause. The cause is to try and ensure that it doesn't happen again, but on a massive, broader scale. We're talking about nuclear weapons.
I know that probably didn't sound callous, but to me, it's callous because he's lying, repeating the same BS. The only group of people who have killed tens of thousands of individuals in the Middle East are the Israelis. Iran did not kill tens of thousands of Americans.
Wow. Just wow. Let's unpack this whopper. The only group of people who have killed tens of thousands of individuals in the Middle East are the Israelis. This isn't just repeating the same BS. This is a dangerous and frankly anti-Semitic distortion of history and current events. To completely whitewash Iran's decades of state-sponsored terrorism, its proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas, and its direct involvement in conflicts that have led to hundreds of thousands of deaths across the region, while pinning it all on Israel, is beyond disingenuous. It's a complete inversion of reality, designed to demonize our allies and deflect from the true aggressors. Iran has been a destabilized force for generations, directly responsible for countless deaths, including American lives through proxy attacks. Let's not rewrite history to fit a biased narrative. The facts are clear, no matter how much you try to muddy the waters.
The only country in the Middle East lately that has killed Americans are the Israeli settlers in the West Bank. 10 Americans have been killed in the West Bank since October of 2023. And then you have the 6 American soldiers who got killed in Kuwait as this stupid war against Iran kicked off. And at least Mark Levin understands that here in America, you can't be as brazen about how little you care about the lives of our soldiers as you can be in Israeli media. Israeli media, they're much more honest. And I want to turn to Niv Raskin over at, I believe it was Channel 12 News in Israel. Here's what he had to say about American troops as they came under friendly fire in Kuwait. Now, this had to do with American troops whose jets were shot down. Luckily, they were all ejected from the planes and they're okay. They didn't die. But nonetheless, the wording here that you're about to hear from Raskin is important. Take a listen.
נחזור ונדגיש, באירוע בכווית, אמריקאי, לא חלילה, כמובן, אירוע ישראלי.
They were American forces and not, God forbid, Israeli forces that came under friendly fire. We need to get them all out of office. I mean, I can't think of more than maybe 2 incumbent lawmakers that I would keep, but we need a reset when it comes to our government. We need to get all of these ghouls out immediately. Luckily, there have been some elections recently that show you just how unpopular it is to be a candidate who supports Israel. So we'll talk about that a little later.
And there you have it, folks. We've seen a masterclass in blaming America and our allies, while conveniently ignoring the true bad actors on the global stage. From accusing our leaders of being puppets to completely rewriting the history on conflict in the Middle East. The agenda here is absolutely clear. Sow division, undermine trust, and push a narrative that weakens America's stand and its ability to defend itself and its allies. But we're not falling for it. We need to stay vigilant, demand factual reporting, and call out these distorted narratives whenever we hear them. Your voice matters. Don't let them control the story. Keep thinking critically, keep asking questions, and keep fighting for the truth. So tell me, if you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe for some more unfiltered analysis. Until next time, stay vigilant, Patriots. Stay vigilant.